Does anyone have a question? They would like to ask? Questions are always good. They add a whole dimension to the meditation. And yet at the same time, I can understand the energy is really strong and people are very internalized. And
Stuart, I have a question.
yes.
Why is it difficult for me, for my heart to remain open? Even though I keep working on myself and going deeper within, it's still difficult for my heart to remain open.
I mean, look, Tabitha, for you to live and express yourself the way you do today after what you've been through in your life shows me that your heart can open and it can stay open. I mean, when you've told me stories about what you've lived through in your life, I mean, it's, you know, I mean, it's like a horror movie. And that anyone that could survive that and have the kindness you have, the love you have, the gratitude you have, it's like a living miracle, Tabitha. So I don't believe you can't keep your heart open. I don't believe that. Yes, it closes, there's pain, there's difficulty, but everybody goes through that. Nobody lives with their heart open all the time. People forget so conveniently. And there's lots of tension, there's lots of, you know, insecurity and all kinds of stuff that manifests. But, you know, from what I know about your life, Tabitha, and what you've told me, and I'm sure you haven't even told me a tenth of what has taken place in your life. To see, you know, the love and the gratitude and the joy that comes out of you. I mean, look, what can I ask for? You really are like a lotus flower that comes out of muddy water. And there's always a part of us that, I don't care how much we've grown, that still wants to beat ourselves up, that still can't accept that we can be a child of God, that we can be happy people. So I would, you know, just focus on how far you've come in your life instead of, oh crap, my heart is closed today and I feel shitty. So what? Focus on where you've come from, for God's sake. And that will really pretty readily open your heart.
Thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome, dear. And please love yourself. You're really a wonderful person. And allow yourself to say, hey, look how far I've, you know, the best way to gauge where you are in your life is just remember yourself 20 years ago, what you were like. I mean, you will have instant gratitude. And you'll probably bake the best cakes that anybody in Miami has ever seen.
Yes, I do.
Right. So I you know, look, let's start from there and say, oh shit, I feel miserable today. I feel unhappy today. My heart is closed. I've been doing this meditation. Why doesn't it keep my heart open all the time? Look what it's taken. Look where you have arrived because of this meditation. Look how it has transformed your life. Makes me grateful. I'd hate to have to deal with Tabitha the way she was 20 years ago.
Thank you, Stuart, so much.
Does anyone else have a question?
Sure. Stuart?
Yeah.
Can you share a better understanding of how we create our reality based on what we feed ourselves from the news or from what we read on the internet versus creating our reality from a higher source?
I don't know. I mean, look, Larry, what can I say? You know, if you focus your attention on all the garbage that's in the news and what goes on in this world, that's going to be a reality. Understand? I don't, you know, to me, I look at that stuff as like watching cartoons, you know, it's like just stupid. When I watch it, I like to know what's going on in the world, you know, and it certainly even affects my life in some ways. But I know that over the years, I built a system in myself that's strong enough to never allow that insanity to take over. And that, to me, was the key to how to deal with it. You got to build inner life that is strong enough that all of that, you know, madness that goes on in the world, it doesn't creep in, it doesn't take over. You're strong enough to be able to transform it into an open heart. So I don't really know the answer to your question. I mean, if you spend your time emotionally and mentally focusing on all of that politics and economics and inflation and this and wars and the nonstop insanity that has been going on in the world as long as I can remember. I cannot remember, I've said it a million times, I can't remember a day in my life where there hasn't been a war somewhere in the world, where people haven't been starving somewhere in the world. I mean, I even got to the point where I had a conversation with God. I said, look, this is your world. You created this insanity. You have to fix it. I will do everything possible to fix myself. Everything possible to give the deepest things I can possibly give to people that come and want to learn about them. So I don't know, you know, what's the answer to that? I don't know. I mean, it's where you focus your attention. I mean, I've always, you know, from earliest stages of my life, I've understood that all this external stuff is an illusion. And if we want to imbibe the illusion, if we want to just, you know, saturate ourselves with the illusion, it's gonna eat us alive. That's what illusion does. But if we want to use it as a very good and very clear reason for us to get closer to God and to grow in our lives, then Maya, illusion, is an incredible tool to learn how to do that. So I don't know, you know, I mean, it's what you focus on. You know, I always thank God that all these politicians and people, that they do it. I don't have to do it. I'm so grateful that I don't have to live in that world. And sometimes in my writing, I use it, you know, I do. I went to this poetry thing and I read one of my little stories and it was about war, you know? And just use it, you know, to come to some realization about how absurd the whole thing is and how insane the whole thing is. So I don't know. I mean, all I know is that, you know, I don't take it terribly serious. And I look at those politicians and those people in the economic world and Wall Street and all that stuff. And I go, what? I used to have a lot of students that were in Wall Street, you know, and their entire focus all day long was the, the exchange of money, how money is changing in all different countries. You know, I mean, this was, I mean, and you look at them and they were like insane, you know? You know, I can tell you a story. I once had a student that was very, very interesting, you know? He was involved in stock market, worked for Solomon Brothers and those kind of people. And, you know, he used to be a very close student of mine, and he really did a lot to support me financially. He became a good client of mine. He used to buy expensive art for me, and he did a lot to support me, and I was always grateful to him. And then he disappeared. He moved to Europe. He moved to Europe. I would go to Paris. I would visit him, or London, visit him, and he would always put me up at five-star hotels, and we'd go out to all these restaurants where the bill was never less than $300, you know, and but I never quite understood, you know, the significance of it all. I enjoyed it. I never said no. We enjoyed it. We laughed. We had fun. And then he kind of disappeared. And a couple of years later, I hadn't heard from him. I get a phone call from him. And he's going on and on about he's doing some kind of meditation that is so much better than what I teach. And he's going on and on and on about this. How, you know, what I do is not in any way comparison to what he's studying. So I said to him, David, I said, look, I don't care. Does it work for you? He said, yes. I said, okay, that's the only important thing. Why are you putting something else down? Just be grateful it works for you and use it to get to God, you know? Anyway, 2 weeks after that phone conversation, another student of mine who was also in the financial world calls me up and says, you got to look at the Wall Street Journal today. So I said, you know, his name was David also. I said, David, I don't read that. He said, Stuart, just go to the corner, get a copy and read it. You're going to be very interested on what's on the front page. So I went to the corner, I got a copy of the Wall Street Journal, and there on the front page was a picture of this guy who was telling me his meditation was better than mine, and the thing's going on and on. And there's a whole story there about he ran a hedge fund that the Rothschilds financed, and the whole thing went south. It just collapsed and lost $800 million of his investors' money. And when I read that article, I realized why he called me. He really, truly needed someone to talk to, but he didn't have the balls to say to me, Stuart, I need somebody to talk to. I'm in a mess. My life is in a mess. When I read that article, I said, wow, that was really what that phone call was about. And it was like, you know, all that money, all that what? What did it accomplish in this person's life? And there's another story. I mean, I used to be in the art business, you know, and I used to sell really expensive stuff. I mean, not impressionist paintings or anything like that. No, but things for, you know, 5, 6 figures, 7 figures, you know. And I got a sculpture. I'll never forget this. It was really an extraordinary sculpture. And I had a client who was very rich. At that time, probably in the early 2000s, family was probably worth 15 to 20 billion dollars. And he was a major collector of the things I sold. So we got in touch with him and asked him to come over to my loft. And this I'll never forget as long as I live. And he came over and he was with 2 or 3 other people. He comes off the elevator. I had like a private elevator that came right into the loft. And he comes off the elevator bitching and complaining about everything in the world. There was nothing right in the world. And I finally, after 10 minutes of listening, I couldn't stand it anymore. I said, look, what the fuck are you bitching about? I said, it was good sperm. You were born into it. mean, you were born into a family that was worth $20 billion. For God's sake, what are you complaining about? And he looks at me, and this voice says to me, "You want it?" I'll never forget that. It was like the Buddha talking to me, telling me how delusional all of this stuff is, and how much Maya it is, and what an illusion it is, and how it doesn't make anybody happy. I've never met a wealthy person in my life who was happy. And I have known, I had to deal with them all the time because of the kind of things I used to sell. So how do I deal with that? I've spent my life connecting with God, growing in myself, building a system that frees me of all the insanity that goes into politics and money and power and, you know, and understanding where the real power is. It's in love, it's in humility, it's in being a happy person, it's in gratitude. I mean, I can go on and tell you 50 stories like this, you know, of people that I've known. And every one of them was a teacher to me. They were like the Buddha talking, telling me what is an illusion and what is real. Not that one shouldn't have money. Money is great. You know, it provides a good life and, you know, it makes an interesting life, you know. But does it make anyone happy? You know, no. It just gives us a certain degree of comfort and an ability to live in the world, you know? We can give Caesar what Caesar wants in order for us to live a good life.
It's 2 o'clock.
So I really don't know the answers to these things. What I do understand is that I have to grow every day and just deepen my connection to God by building a chakra system and developing my inner life so that all of the madness in the world doesn't drag me down. That's the only place you can get the strength to keep the madness. I mean, I once wrote a novel called Madness Falling from the Sky. And I don't claim having made up that thing. I was in Paris when I was 25 years old, and I used to do poetry readings at a place called Shakespeare and Company there on the left bank. And it was a bookstore, and I'm going through the books there one day, and I find a book by Rabindranath Tagore. And it was a book of poetry. And in the book, there was a line, "Madness falling from the sky." I never forgot it. It's another way of God teaching us what we're here really to do. I used it as the title of my book, you know, Madness Falling from the, you know, a book about young people in the 1960s. Does anyone else have a question?
Thank you for sharing, Stuart.
You're welcome. Hope it penetrates.
Absolutely.
Does anyone else have a question? Okay. There'll be a meditation class on Sunday. I'm looking forward to seeing you. God bless you all. And thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your presence, which is doing an enormous amount to help me grow in my life. So God bless you all and thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody on Sunday.
Thank you, Stuart. God bless you.